Hello everyone, Emma Power here and welcome back to a new video. In today's one we're going to be taking a look at some updated Zoroark decks from Silver Tempest. Of course, Zoroark is an amazing single prize Pokemon that allows itself to be switched with any other stage 1 in your discard pile. Unfortunately, Zoroark has been plagued by consistency issues and a lack of varying attackers as well as a bad matchup spread in the format. However, with Silver Tempest we finally have some key missing features from the deck that seem to have eluded it over the last few sets. So without further ado, let's get into some key translations. So two of the big ones that will be familiar to you by now, but Serena and Braixen. The upcoming Serena card is a very potent card for the Zoroark deck. It has two different effects that you choose one from. Discard up to 3 cards in your hand. If you discard any cards in your way, draw cards until you have 5 cards in your hand. And then the second effect is switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon V with their active Pokemon. Not only does this double as a boss's orders, which usually would clunk up the hand, this also doubles as a way to discard other stage 1 Pokemon, as well as draw cards. So Serena, very potent card in Zoroark, and I expect this to be a 3 or 4 in the build moving forward. Also, Braixen is a new attacker for the deck, with the attack Flare Parade for 2 colors energy, does 60 damage for each Serena card in your discard pile. So as the game progresses and we discard more and more Serena, either with each other or with Quick Ball, playing them naturally, or with Ultra Ball, Flare Parade starts to really rack up, and we can do northwards of 240 damage if we get all 4 Serena in the bin. If not, if we only get 3 Serena, we're still doing 180, which will 2-KO every Pokemon in the game. So just going into the first list here, this is like a very tame list, I would say, regarding Zoroark. It is playing the Cinccino, so we're moving away from Bibarel, but we're basically going back to the Twin Energy builds and none of the Zero Energy that we see with Arcanine. So in this build, we're running the Golisopod, the Braixen, the Slowbro for the final move, and then a Mightyena for the Mew matchup. Flapple, which I deeply approve of, does 50 damage for each ability your opponent has in play. So stuff like Regieleki and the upcoming Lugia and Regidrago all have a ton of abilities in play, so be able to capitalize on that with Flapple. Then we also have a Manaphy for some bench protection, and the new Radiant Jirachi. Jirachi says when it's knocked out, you can search your deck for any 3 cards, and that will help you set up even more Serenas and grab your special energy. Its attack, Stellar Doom, for 2 colors. Says flip 2 coins. If both of them are heads, your opponent's active is knocked out. And because our stadium of choice in this deck is the Glimwood Tangle, it does mean we have decent odds of actually being able to knock a Pokemon out with Jirachi. It's a very consistent list, and I'm excited to try this one out. So the second one is still using a Cinccino engine, similar style attackers, but it is making use of some really cool ones. It does have the one Appleton, which I call the Hot Cross Dinosaur, that does 70 damage for each special energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon in play. So something like a Lugia needs 4 special energy to attack, so you'll naturally be doing 280, and you can want to kill Lugia. So not only do you have that against Lugia, but you also have the Raichu. The new Raichu does 40 damage, and then does 100 more if your opponent has used their V-Star power. Well, Lugia has to play Archeops as their V-Star power to put them out into play, I should say. So as soon as I've done that, Raichu will just be able to take a 1-KO on Lugia. So naturally, you have a very strong Lugia matchup. This essentially makes Lugia just a very strong matchup for this deck, and predicting that Lugia is going to be very dominant, one could assume that this could be a very strong counter to that. Also, still playing the Slowbro means you do have a good matchup against a lot of other 1 prizers as well, except probably something like Lost Box. So super interesting to see. Also playing the Kleavor that does 30 damage, I believe, or 10 damage, and then 30 more for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Very strong attack going into Regieleki Vikavolt, because you're just hitting for weakness and they naturally want to fill up their bench. So super cool list, and I'm definitely interested in trying this one out. So this next one, we are running back to this heavy set of text. There's a lot going on here. I'll do my best to try and break it down. But essentially, we see the same Pokemon that we've seen in the last ones. We are playing this Syrian Zoroark with the Doom News attack. That says during the end of your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon is knocked out. So your opponent can't retreat it, then bye-bye, I guess. Only 1 Serena and no Braixen. So if you're not a fan of the Serena and Braixen, then there's no combo here really, except for just the 1 Serena. It is playing the Shuppet, however. That says once in your turn, you may send it into a Lost Zone and retrieve it as a porter. So you can retrieve either one of Marnie, your Cynthia, one of your Research, a Boss, or Piers. So super cool list in that regard. Also playing a single copy of Fighting Energy, which I'm not sure is needed, but interesting list either way. I'm not sure I'm a big fan of this one, but it is a cool list nonetheless. So this next list is another hyper consistent Braixen Serena build. using the breaks in as sort of a one-off in the deck, but also using Wormadam to take massive KOs. It's also focusing on Pokestop as well, and giving you option to use Path to the Peak, because not every game you'll actually need your Radiant Jirachi, so just having the option to turn off all Pokemon with Roblox abilities with Path to Peak is very strong. It's a very cool list, and it's just like one of the more consistent ones, and of course Wormadam does hit that weakness on Vikavolt and Regieleki. So this next one is another breaks in build, leading quite heavily into it with the 2-line of breaks in, but also playing a 4-3-1 line of Gallade. So the new Curlia has an ability that essentially just trade from Cinccino that says once in your turn you may discard a card from your hand and draw 2. And then the Gallade says once in your turn you may search your deck for a supporter, i.e. Serena. And then the other Gallade for 2 colorless energy does 60 damage times the number of Pokemon V in your opponent's hand. Opponent has in play, sorry. So again, hitting that crucial weakness on Vikavolt and Regieleki. And because you have Raichu, you also have a good matchup against Lugia. So very strong build. I'm curious to see if this one ends up actually being better than the main Cinccino build, just because you have access to these massive type coverings without needing to play stuff like Cleavor. But still, super cool build, and I'm excited to try this one out. So this next one is more of a focus on Wormadam, so we are playing a whole ton of Pokemon, including a 2-2 Liepard line, a 2-2 Fennekin breaks in, a 1 Altaria, which you don't always see, the Appleton, which I really love, the Raichu, the Zoroark, a ton of attackers that we don't usually see. It's a fairly teched out build, and I think this one is probably one of the harder ones to play just because you have to know what you want to grab when you want to grab it. But having said that, it could be super rewarding, and once you get all those Pokemon in the discard pile, Wormadam can smack massive damage, and you're basically covering just every weakness in the game at this point. You have fire types, you have dark types, you have metal, grass, fighting, lightning. So yeah, you cover a ton of weakness. So I'm a big fan of this one, and I'm curious to see where it leads. This next one is probably the most varied because it's not really a Zoroark toolbox deck, I suppose. It's more of a focus on the Lucario from Brilliant Stars, and it uses the Claydol engine. One thing you might have noticed about this list is that it does actually play a Pokemon V, Drapion. It plays a Radiant Pokemon that's basically seen no play in its life, Eevee, and it also plays a single supporter card, Grant. This will definitely be the ultimate meme to try out, but essentially the new Claydol says, if you have no supporters in your discard pile, once in your turn you may accelerate a fighting energy to one of your Pokemon. And of course this has great synergy with Lucario, who will be discarding a lot of energies. And then there's Grant, obviously can bring itself back from the graveyard and allow you to deal plus 30 damage. Super cool list. I'm very excited to try this one out, but I'm not sure I'm a fan of Radiant Eevee yet. Still, could be cool though. So yeah, that will do it. Thank you for watching this video. I hope to see you next time. Let me know what you think down below of Zoroark. Is it finally time to shine yet? And yeah, thank you for watching.